Hey everybody, Tim Anderson here, aka Renville, and welcome to my channel. More importantly, welcome to this first episode of something that's kind of an experiment, and I just want to see where it goes. I'm going to call this series Tim's Tabletop Tips. I've been running campaigns and creating fantastical worlds since the mid 90s. I'm currently working as the lead writer and creative person behind the Weave of the Void world. I'm DMing a Lost Mine of Phandelver campaign over on the Weave of the Void Twitch channel on Sunday nights at 9. And before this, I've created lots of different fantastical worlds, including the world of the Saga of Leucemia, which started off as a tabletop campaign in the late 90s, then evolved into an MMORPG. So I've done this for a little bit. I think I have some valuable information. Today we're going to be talking about one of my favorite components of tabletop games, which is randomness and using that to your advantage, whether it's to get out of sticky situations or to use as an inspiration for role play. So when in doubt, roll the dice. That's what today's topic is all about. Now, before we get going, let's do the prerequisite. Hey, are you new here? If you are, welcome. If you like this video, don't forget to smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell icon so you get updates for future content in this series and beyond. Check out the playlists here on YouTube. I play a lot of different games, do book reviews, show reviews, cooking stuff with my wife. We stream a lot. There's also a Discord channel. You can check that out below. And of course, you can always check out the World of the Weave and the Void, which we're going to be talking about at the end of this episode, if you want to know more about that as well. If you're a returning subscriber, thanks so much for your support. I've got a fresh mug of coffee in my Mando mug. It is 6:30 in the morning. I'm up and chipper. Let's get going. So I use a sort of homebrew system um, in terms of modified rules every time we play. Whether it's my favorite, which is second edition AD&D, or currently working with fifth edition. Um, I like those two rule sets a lot. 3.5, 4.0 were good, but for me, it's always been second edition, and I really like fifth. But I always use a sort of hybridized version where I throw a little bit of homebrew in there. And one of my favorite aspects of homebrew is that you can tweak the rules a little bit. And the thing that I like to do the most is use what's called flavor rolls. Now, flavor rolls are something that I learned from my D&D mentor, a really cool guy named Ted, who I met in the late 90s when I was in line. Well, my buddy and I were in full costume, went to Loveland, Colorado. We were living in the area at the time, and Phantom Menace was coming out, and we thought we were going to be the first ones in line the night before at Star Wars. Turns out there was another dude already there with a really cool dog and a campfire grill set up, and he was cooking brats. And I met him. He was a huge Star Wars fan, and that started a friendship that has lasted over the years. And we're not in touch as much as we used to be, obviously, because of differences. I live in Mexico City. He lives up in the Seattle area. But he taught me a lot about D&D, and I had played D&D before him, before playing with him. But he was the one who taught me, in my mind, he was the mentor who really guided me into role playing and letting the dice dictate what is going to happen in a given session. So if you've ever watched any of our sessions during the Lost Mine of Phandelver campaign that we're currently running on the Weave in the Void Twitch channel, I use flavor die a lot. I use them for lots of different things. For me, a flavor die is something where if the outcome is uncertain or I'm not exactly sure off the top of my head what I want to do, or if something is happening and I want to add a little extra flavor to the situation, that will have everybody sort of on their will keep everybody on their toes, I'll roll flavor dice. It's usually, in my case, one die. I often use a six-sided die. And the general rule is that six is always good for the DM and one is always good for the player. So just keeping that in mind, the outcome sort of depends on how far in either direction that die roll is skewed. So if it's a one, it's very obviously good for the player character. And if it's a six, like I said, it's obviously good for the DM or the enemies in that case. Um, So using that as sort of a reference guide, there's also 2, 3, 4, and 5. There's roles in the middle, which kind of you can use that as a guide towards the severity of whether it's a critical miss or critical hit type scenario, or just how well an NPC might react or how poorly an NPC might react. I often use these in combat scenarios when we have a critical fail. I don't need to use them for critical hits because when you have a critical hit, you're always going to know, oh, it's double damage or whatever the system is that you're using to inflict the extra damage that comes with a critical hit. But I do love flavor rolls for critical misses because it can turn a critical miss into a good thing for the player if the dice dictate it. So when in doubt, roll those dice. Um, Now, it can also work poorly for the players. We've seen in this campaign, I think more than once, our paladin, played by Simmerg, has taken an arrow to the neck or some other part of his body because of a bow shot gone awry, where one of the bow users in the party has rolled a critical fail while shooting past him into an encounter, and we roll a flavor roll to see how bad was the critical failure. And in the cases where players have rolled extremely poorly, then that arrow ends up hitting the player and doing additional damage. But you can also do it for roleplay scenarios. We often have moments where the players will be doing roleplay, and rather than have them roll a persuasion roll or a intimidation roll, we might just say, well, let's roll a six-sided die and see how he's going to react to that. And that's not necessarily to influence the success or the failure of that intimidation or persuasion. It's just to see, are they reacting well or are they reacting poorly? It doesn't mean that you're succeeding or failing yet. That's what the actual roll for persuasion or intimidation is for. But the flavor roll is there to sort of influence how the character might respond. So if I'm in charge of an NPC and the player is coming up to me, we may be having a role play scenario. Something may be, the conversation may be happening very naturally, and then the player might say something that's just really out of character or against their alignment or something that feels out of place. And in those types of moments, I will roll a flavor die to see, well, does this person see through that or does he go along with it? Like, what is that scenario? Um, I also like to use flavor rolls for just silly things like, the player characters are involved in the middle of a scenario, and um, we had one instance where um, they cut the toe off of a goblin when they were interrogating him and getting him to talk, and so they cut his toe off. And so I rolled a flavor die to see, well, what happened when you cut his toe off, and the die roll was such that it came into my mind after I rolled the die, and it was like, oh, his toe was infected and it squirted a little bit in the warrior's eye, and the next day when he woke up he got pink eye because he got an infected eye. So there's little things like that where flavor roll can enhance and add to a campaign setting. But really, more than anything else, it's just a cool little tool of, if you're ever in doubt about something and you're ever not sure about what you should do, and you're maybe scrambling for something in your mind, roll the dice. Roll those dice, roll those flavor die, and let the dice themselves determine what's going to happen in that scenario. And if you're new to that type of, situation and you've never done sort of impromptu play like that, one of the easy ways to do that is just create a list of like 20 different things on a piece of paper. And when you roll your six-sided die, you can have like 10 good things and 10 bad things. And when you roll your six-sided flavor die, you can very quickly look at that list and just pick something off of the list. That's just something that I've always used. It works for me. I don't know if you use anything similar. If you have, I'd love to hear your different types of sort of dice roll, flavor roll scenarios if you use those. Let me know in the comments below. And of course, if you like this video, don't forget to smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell icon, join our Discord, links are down below. And of course, don't forget, you can tune in every Sunday night at 9 p.m. Central over on the Weave and Void Twitch channel to watch us play The Lost Mine of Phandelver. And later this summer, May, June is what we're shooting for. We are launching our 5th edition campaign setting and the first campaign module for the world of the Weave and the Void. Now, along with that, we're going to be streaming that homebrew campaign setting on the Weave and the Void Twitch channel with the same crew who are currently playing The Lost Mine of Phandelver. We're going to be migrating over to our homebrew system as our books come out. Now, what is the Weave in the Void? Well, the Weave in the Void is the map behind me. It's the world that my brother, my wife, and I have been working on since March of 2021. So we're almost a year into it now, and we're very close to getting the first part of that project out the door, which is the 5th edition tabletop sourcebook and that first campaign module. We also just had the Nathan Napalm join us as a character artist last week, so getting additional art from him. We have been documenting that entire process and everything through our Patreon. It's patreon.com/wandering hermits. So if you want to know more about that project, you can head over to our Patreon page. You can pre-order the books. There's links in our Discord channel all about the Weave in the Void project. And it is more than just tabletop. It's also a series of books like Dragonlance with chapter art from Chris. And those chapters are published twice a month on Patreon. And there's also a point-and-click game like the old King's Quest and Quest for Glory games that my brother is building in Unreal that is part of that overall project. So there's 3 different things going on with Weave in the Void. All that's done through our Patreon page. So if you want to know more, head over there. You can pre-order all the different things. And if you just want to support at a general level, there's a $3 a month subscription where you can get access to the book chapters, concept art, expense reports, all sorts of fun stuff. And it's a great way to support the YouTube channel and say thanks for the content that I produce freely for everybody here on a regular basis. So if I don't see you in Discord, hopefully I see you here in the next YouTube video or over there on Patreon. Thanks again. Let me know your thoughts on this video in the comments below. And let me know with a like because that will dictate how many more of these videos I do because this is an experiment. So hopefully you enjoyed. Until next time, stay safe, everybody.